What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another highly combustible reaction. We're gonna learn something today. 24 styles of classic singing. The title of the video is "You Don't Hate Classical Singing, You Just Hate Opera." Get over, show Kate Frizzell all the love in the world. I appreciate the request. Shout out to Brian. He said I wanted to share an educational video by opera singer Kate Frizzell about classical singing, as you're going to experience some of the styles she mentions here in my future requests, if you haven't already. I learned a lot about different styles of singing from this video that I wasn't familiar with before, so I thought you might get something out of it as well. I hope you enjoy and find it enlightening. I'm sure it's going to be enlightening. Just recently, I would say recently, it's been a few months now, but it's just classical music was never on my radar before. And I'm not a person that hates opera. I absolutely happen to like operas, especially in like other languages that I don't even understand what's going on. It's beautiful when it's sung in whatever language it was meant to be sung in. But that's being said, it's not for everybody. Not everybody feels the same way. A lot of people that I know in my circles dislike opera. But I'm one of those kind of people that thought that all classical singing was some sort of opera. Apparently, we're wrong. So we are going to learn something today. Get over and show Scores Unstitched all the love in the world. We appreciate knowledge around here, and I'm looking forward to learning. So let's learn a little something about classical singing.
When people say they hate classical singing, they're usually talking about exactly one genre: opera. You can't see that. And I get it, opera is loud and dramatic, and it has done an excellent job cornering like the entire classical singing brand. But classical vocal music goes back hundreds of years, like way before opera ever existed. And today I put together a rapid fire guide of 24 styles of classical singing, because opera is just one single slice of a very large, very delicious pie. And listen, if somewhere along the way you start thinking like, maybe opera's not quite as bad as I thought it was, maybe that was the point. This video is
I like that point. Hey, it's really, once you start sitting down and you actually start listening and looking at the whole, how technical it all is, it's amazing what some people can do with their voice. It is absolutely bewildering sometimes. It will put you in a state of a trance sometimes. Yeah, I will never say that I hate opera. I've definitely got some operatic hits on my
pretty slow. There is a Baroque addenda. And before you know it, you're Googling opera tickets at 1 a.m. like a totally reasonable person. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm an opera singer, and here are 24 styles of classical singing.
A rapid fire guide, a hip pocket class. I like it.
I'm realizing now that I probably should have framed this differently.
Wait a minute, what did I say? Chapters and timestamps in the description, because live is literally already hard enough. Amen to that. How far behind the times am I on this video? Oh, it's only 11 days ago. That's not bad.
I'm realizing now that I probably should have framed this differently, because starting with alphabetical lists means numbers at the top, which is like in opera and art world the weirdest stuff, and also opera is first on the list. I'm sorry, I have no control over this. 20th and 21st century opera. This is also known as modern opera sometimes. It's basically what happens when composers innovate. Innovate, make things really hard to listen to. Potato, potato. You're gonna have a tonality here, we'll have unconventional vocal techniques, we're gonna have genre blending with jazz and musical theater, and brace yourselves, opera's in English. Ooh-wee. I mean, like, besides the really old ones, but like they're in a corner over there. Don't look over there. You might also start seeing some modern concepts on stage for once. We'll have real world politics, contemporary wars, you know, people with smartphones, that kind of stuff. This category is going to include stuff like Porgy and Bess, Turn of the Screw, Candide, Akhenaten. How do you pronounce that? But for our example, we're going to go full modernist, because the point here is not pretty, right? The point is experimentation. And if you are waiting for a nice tune to grab onto, you're going to be waiting a while. Okay, moving swiftly along from that, a little bit of
I get it. I understand why some people don't like it at all. But to me, it's all storytelling. It's all, I don't know. I don't know why I like it. I would just say that up front. I have zero idea why I actually like opera. But I do.
Palette cleanser here. 20th century English and American song. Now, when classical singers say song, we don't mean like any song the way that we colloquially use the word now. We specifically mean art song. These are going to be short little
We have heard some art songs. We have
poems that have been set to music, and they were written for recitals. So not opera, not church, like piano, singer, and feelings in a very small room back before people had smartphones and TikTok and stuff, okay? Compared to opera, art song is a lot more intimate. You're not trying to be heard over an orchestra in like a 3,000 seat hall. You're gonna be in a smaller room. And then for 20th century English and American art song specifically, it's still gonna be experimenting harmonically, just like we saw in the opera world, but it's gonna be a lot more grounded than we see in the modern opera. Names you might hear in this category would be Samuel Barber, Amy Beach, Ruth Crawford Seeger, and Gerald Finzi. And for this example, I have chosen Finzi's The Clock of the Years because it lives rent-free in my head from this performance by a former classmate of mine at the Royal College of Music. Oh my God. I'm obsessed with this intro. It's so damn dramatic. Okay, let's go.
A spirit passed before my face. The hair of my flesh stood up. And the spirit said, I can make the clock of the years go backward, but am loath to stop it where you and I cried, agree to that, proceed.
Avant-garde. Okay, prepare yourselves. This is the weirdest corner of the room. It's only uphill from here.
Truly unhinged.
Avant-garde classical vocal music, just like every type of avant-garde art, exists to make you question everything. Music, art, society. My will to live. My opinion is quite clear on this category, I think. This is like the, what if we did this? Type inspired genre. This is where we're going to find graphic scores that look like abstract drawings that are impossible for musicians to read, or vocal techniques that could in most studios be considered illegal.
How the hell would you read that? No way.
Look like abstract drawings that are impossible for musicians to read, or vocal techniques that could in most studios be considered illegal. And composers doing crazy shit like feeding hay to pianos. I wish I was kidding. Or like stuffing erasers or like ping pong balls between piano strings to like achieve a very specific sound. Composers here, we're talking John Cage, Stockhausen, and the name to make all musicians run in fear, Schoenberg. And the piece we're going to listen to today calls for a very strange vocal technique called Sprechstimme, which is a deeply cursed offspring of speaking and singing and whispering. You'll see. This is Pierre Lunaire by Schoenberg.
Mit Augen trinkt, des Nachts der Mond in Wogen nieder.
Okay, let's take a break. Back to opera.
Yeah, I just took a little break from that one. Maybe avant-garde. I don't know. I'm already learning that there's so many different things that we've been missing out on my entire life. And I've just been categorizing them all as opera. And I feel like a dick.
Here, I told you, there's an agenda. Baroque opera. Now, for music and art in general, Baroque refers to anything between 1600 and 1750, and this is the oldest category of opera that we still perform today. Baroque opera uses much smaller orchestras, so we're talking like period instruments of harpsichords, recorders, and then just like the early music equivalents of the instruments that we see today. So the sound is a lot leaner, it's a lot more transparent, and vocally, you're gonna hear way less vibrato than you hear in modern opera styles. We got composers like Monteverdi, of course, Handel, of course, and Purcell or Purcell, depending on, you know, where you're from. And the piece I'm going to show you is an excerpt from the oldest opera in the repertory that we still perform today, L'Orfeo by Monteverdi. It premiered in 1607, okay, guys?
That's what I like about it. It's like a historical record of music, man. We're talking about old stuff that's been around since before you or I was even thought of, was even imagined, before our parents were even thought of. Like, just to be able to take a step in time. I think that's what it is. That's why I like a lot of old school music in general, just because. And folk music that tells these old tales. It's just another way of passing down a story to someone else.
It is over 400 years old, and you'll hear some interesting techniques. This is specific to Baroque music. right, cantatas. Cantatas are one of those genres where the definition like totally depends on where you are in history, because there are cantatas from a long time ago, and then there are cantatas that are a lot more modern. In the Baroque era, so remember 1600 to 1750, cantatas were usually like long songs. Usually they were written for church, sometimes they were for secular settings, but usually for church. And we're just talking like a solo singer, maybe two, and then a small group of instruments. So sort of more of a chamber type thing. But then over time, it started to bloat and it started to expand, as we do. And, you know, by the time we get to the classical and romantic periods, we're talking about like oratorios basically inside cantatas. We'll get there, don't worry about it. But if you're trying to figure out what it's going to sound like before you go,
Everyone just went, what the hell's an oratorio?
look at the year that the cantata was written, and that'll tell you everything you need to know. Obviously, we cannot talk about cantatas without talking about the GOAT. All hail King Cantata. We've got Bach. Of course, so here's a snippet of the Netherlands Bach Society singing Wachet auf, ruft uns die Stimme. Chamber choir and small ensemble. I love this genre so much. I'm going to try and be normal about it. If you're
We do love a good chamber choir.
looking for classical vocal music that has little to no vibrato, welcome. You are home. We're talking 8 to 12 singers. Sometimes we'll get up to like 16 or 20, but really where the magic comes in is that you've only got 1 or 2 singers per part. Just like how in sports, everyone's an athlete, but sometimes they'll choose to play as a team. Everyone's a soloist in their own right, but they just choose to sing together. This music is all about super
The singer Avengers. She makes it so easy to understand.
tight harmonies and blend. So you're going to hear it in, most of the time, very reverberant spaces. So we're talking churches or amphitheaters or cathedrals or like stairwells or something. The tone
Yeah,
is very
stairwells.
pure, very focused, very clean, which is why people either fall in love with this particular style or they're wrong. And case in point, here's Voces 8 singing May It Be from Lord of the Rings.
You already know how we feel about Voces 8. We love them.
Chanting.
There's something about small chamber choirs being in some of these exquisite buildings that they're in, and the acoustics in there that makes them sound like they're a lot bigger than a little small choir. Oh no, it makes your voices amplify and do crazy things to my mind, my body, my soul, my blood. Just
Arguably, this is going to be the oldest
love it.
music on this list. It's so old that modern music
hella old. Sound like she's from California. Hella.
notation didn't exist yet. Monks were instead using neumes, like squiggly sort of style of writing that says like, oh, the music kind of goes up here and a little bit down here. Chant, or specifically Gregorian chant, is defined by a couple of core features here. So we've got unison singing, where there's no harmony, mostly male voices, Latin text. It's a deeply churchy sound world, and it is a Roman Catholic tradition, so I guess that makes sense. It's designed for these enormous stone cathedrals with reverb, oh my god, for days. Musically, chant's going to revolve around a reciting tone, which is why you get this like repeated note that everyone thinks of, where you've got the like a very holy doorbell. Here's chant in its natural habitat. This is the Dominican friars chanting Salve Regina during a service in September 2025. Contemporary song is exactly what it sounds like. It's recital music that was written recently. recently. Contemporary, of course, means that the composer is still living, but also usually there's like this implication that it's within the last 20 years or so. Stylistically, it's going to be all over the place, just like, you know, one pop singer sounds different from another today. Especially in contemporary art song, composers tend to favor a little bit less formality. They like for different sounds to be explored. They like it to sound a little bit more, dare I say, human, perhaps. And another huge plus about contemporary songs is that they exist in tons of languages that opera doesn't traditionally cover.
Between the mountains and valleys and the slow hushed depths of the rivers
Okay.
and the mysterious touch
English art song.
Listen, I could listen to her just sit here and talk to me because she has a fantastic sense of humor. Or I could listen to her singing all day long. She has a beautiful voice. I'm so thankful that we've been introduced to this world. That we keep learning more and more. Just the other day, I went inside the house. We were going through old records, some things from my grandfather, my great-grandfather. Full boxes of classical music. Full boxes of all these records and gramophone records and
This time we're talking specifically about British composers. Most English art song is Hold Your Hats in English. And it
Yeah?
tends to put,
You think?
what is this? Got this hair that like refuses to stay out of my face. Help me here. I would say that English song in general tends to put this big emphasis on clarity of text and purity of tone. There's a big
practically English, old chap.
strong Anglican choral influence here. We're going to get there in just a second. So the ideal sound is going to be pure and clean and natural. You're going to have composers like Ivor Gurney, Roger Quilter, Charles Villiers Stanford. I know he's technically Irish, whatever. And of course,
I was thinking about that the other day.
Benjamin Britten. So for this example, we're going to go straight
I was like, he's considered an English song composer, but he's Irish.
to the source. We've got Peter Pears, who is one of the most respected English art song tenors of all time, singing Britten's arrangement of O Wally Wally, accompanied by Britten.
love's a jewel while it is new, but when it is old, it groweth cold and fades away like morning dew.
Okay, now we have what we just mentioned, that English cathedral Anglican choral tradition. Traditionally, cathedral choirs are antiphonal, which means that they're sitting on either side of the church and singing at each other instead of all standing in one thing singing at you. And again, historically, they were made up of boys and men, and that tends to be how it is now. So this is where that really famous pure boy soprano tone comes from. The sound is very full, but it's also very clean. There's not going to be any vibrato, or if there is, it's going to be very minimal. And the popularity of this tradition has inspired composers all over the world. So you might know some contemporary names like maybe Eric Whitacre or Ole Yalo or maybe Jonathan Dove. And then historically, of course, we've got the big ones. We've got Vaughan Williams, we've got Elgar, we've got John Tavener, and my personal favorite, Herbert Howells. Here is King's College, Cambridge, singing A Spotless Rose.
Oh my goodness. That make your hair stand on end.
Okay, this one's a bit of a departure, but it absolutely belongs on this list, so stick with me here. A big amount of the modern soundtrack singing that we see today is formed with classical technique, especially when it comes to choirs. We're thinking Lord of the Rings or John Williams scores or The Fifth Element.
I'm so glad that she included this because I really still feel like video games and movies, the music makes it. That's what sets the entire tone of the whole thing. That's what drives the emotions. Without the music, it'd just be pictures on the screen. It wouldn't be nearly as impactful. There's just some that stand out. I've cried during video games and movies because of the music.
Or Game of Thrones, that big dramatic choral sound, very classical coded. Video games are fully on board with this too. We've got Final Fantasy, Bayonetta Origins, Child of Light. They all make heavy use of classical inspired singing, to the point that a lot of the singers who are hired for these projects are classically trained, at least in some way. They may have departed from it later on, but the foundation is still based in classical roots. Let's have a listen. You'll recognize it.
Lord save me. Man, look. Look there.
You scared her off, right? And good riddance.
Can you talk?
Yes.
Okay, folk crossover, or in the case of a lot of us, Celtic crossover. This is the category that's gonna live in that space between folk music and classical technique. Irish music, I think, is the most famous example, at least in the Western world, but you're also gonna find this in American gospel, that there's some crossover there, or in ancient Chinese melodies. What's gonna make it sound like a classically inspired folk song is the intention behind it. So the music's gonna be written down, the arrangements are gonna be stylized in a classical way, the vocal tone is usually gonna be pretty pure and clean. There's not gonna be any growls or rasp, not a whole lot of improvisation either. In general, it's just going to sound a little bit more formal than what you would expect if you were sitting in a bar or a pub or like around a campfire or something. And that's the point. That's what makes it sound like a classical inspiration. This is Anuna performing Phil Philaroon.
When you can show 20 seconds of something and I'm already zoned in on it and I don't want it to end, I don't know how people just say I don't like classical music. I don't like classical singing. It boggles my mind. I will replace half of the stuff that's on my radio in the car with some of these right here. Like, sure, there's going to be some that are hit and miss. There's going to be some that I'm just like, no, that's not for me. But on the whole, to just say, like I did my whole life, turn a cold shoulder to it, like, nah, no classical music. I don't know what you guys see in that. It wasn't until I got older and wiser and more mature than actually sat down and started listening to it that I was just like, it's mind-boggling.
Halfway there, how we doing? Ready to move on? Good. French mélodie and chanson. We had English art song before. This is now the French version of recital music, where English song is very clean and very restrained. French mélodie is all about vibes. Everything's going to be a suggestion. Everything is very atmospheric. It's going to be poetic, very sensual. The harmony is tonal, but it's not predictable. It does lean a bit more modal. The piano is absolutely a co-main character rather than just accompaniment. Big composers in the genre, we've got Fauré, we've got Debussy, Ravel, Satie, Lili Boulanger. But my personal favorite mélodie, my personal favorite chanson is L'heure exquise by Reynaldo Hahn, sung here exquisitely by Susan Graham. Okay, we had French art song. Now we're going to have German art song, also known as Lieder, where French melody is subtle and atmospheric. German Lieder is intense. It's very deeply rooted in the poetry, and it's very emotionally direct. The text is über alles. It is the most important thing. Germans love their poets, and the music exists to serve the words. The repertoire is going to be raw, it's going to be dramatic, it's going to be very hard on your sleeve. Even if the music doesn't sound like it, the emotion behind it definitely is. German Lieder has been around for centuries, so we're going to have everything from the strophic Schubert songs to the non-strophic Schubert songs to this dense romantic counterpoint when we've got Brahms to this very subtle sort of musicality from Wolf. But if I didn't use Schubert as the example here, the internet would hunt me for sport. So here's Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau Moskau, DFD, if you want to sound like you know what you're talking about, singing the iconic Erlkönig.
König mit Kronenschein. Dein Sohn, es ist ein Nebelstreich.
That's one we've definitely done before. You don't forget.
Komm, geh mit mir, gar schöne Spiele spiel ich mit dir.
Grand opera. It is exactly what it sounds like. Too much, on purpose. Usually going to be 5 acts, massive casts, unhinged set designs, costumes that cost more than my education. And because it's 19th century France, entire ass ballets just like dropped into the middle of an opera for no reason. Because, and if you're listening and thinking how the they afford this, correct. They were absurdly expensive to produce. So when the French aristocracy stopped being able to bankroll these incredibly lavish productions, grand opera went up in flames. Quite literally, the Paris Opera House caught fire in the 1900s and all the old sets burned. The king of this genre is going to be Meyerbeer. Pretty much from 1820 to 1840, it was all Meyerbeer. So if you ever see Les Huguenots or Robert le Diable on a program announcement for an opera house, they're feeling very bold. They're feeling very expensive. So here's a taste from Les Huguenots. Italian art song. This is basically opera's slightly shyer little sister. It's like everything Italian opera is, just performed in a smaller room and not for 2,000 people. There's a technique called bel canto, which is literally beautiful singing, and it's all about this pure tone and these lovely vowels that are all in the same line, and it's supposed to sound really pretty. When you apply that basic technique for opera to smaller repertoire that doesn't require the physical body of an adult to be able to project to 2,000 people, that's where you start to get things like the original Italian art songs that usually young singers will start with, because it's like the perfect place to start when you're training classically. So for a slightly different comparison here, let's listen to a master of the craft. This is Cecilia Bartoli, proving that simple beauty does not mean that it's easy. Light opera. This genre has a bunch of lanes. We're going to do our best to condense them because why pick one? Leo, kom maar. Ga je piano spelen? Ja? Ja, lekker. Oh, dat is mooi. Look, we have a contemporary art song composer right here. Wow. You might be very avant-garde. We got Singspiel, like the Magic Flute. We've got Opéra Comique, like Carmen. We've got the ballad operas, like the Beggar's Opera. Gilbert and Sullivan, pretty much anything by Gilbert and Sullivan. Operetta. If it sounds like opera, but people talk sometimes, that's going to be light opera. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, Kate, this sounds suspiciously like musical theater, you're correct. Light opera is one of the 2 links between opera and Broadway. Big thing you're going to notice here, no belting. Loud singing, yes. Dramatic singing, absolutely. But it's still going to be that classical technique all the way through. If opera scares you, this is a fantastic place to start because you already know this music. You just didn't know it was opera. I promise you know this.
The only thing that scares me about any kind of opera is the emotions, boy. Sometimes they are overwhelming. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a tragic, sad kind of way.
This is from the Pirates of Penzance. Now you know what it is.
I am the very model of a modern Major General. I've information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England and I quote the fight historical from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. I am very well acquainted too with matters mathematical. I understand equations both as simple and quadratical. About binomial theorem, I'm teeming with a lot of news. Lot of news. I have it. With many cheerful facts about the square of the hypotenuse.
Okay, madrigals. This is the secular vocal music from the Renaissance, like basically Renaissance a cappella. It's the same multi-voice harmony situation we had in churches, except instead of like praise be, it's more like, oh, this man, I swear to God. They're usually unaccompanied, although sometimes there's like lutes and stuff that might be involved. Very texty, meant to be sung very socially, sort of celebratory, or maybe at a sad event or something, just, you know, like in life. And if your brain is now conjuring pictures of people in tights at a Renaissance festival, that's correct. Here we have composers like Thomas Morley, Byrd, Monteverdi. Again, this is the King Singers politely slapping Now is the Month of Maying.
Now is the month of May, when merry lads are playing.
Now is the month of May, when many lads are play. Each with his bonny lads upon the greeny grass.
Okay, I know
That's a
before anyone
joyful
throws a chair at me,
feeling.
musical theater is not opera. I'm not here to claim that it is. However, legit musical theater is a real term. It's a controversial, but it's a real term, and everyone in the musical theater world knows what it means. This is our golden age stuff, right? We've got Sound of Music, My Fair Lady, Oklahoma, that sort of stuff. Pre-belting. It's lyric, it's floaty, it's vibrato having. This is that second style that grew out of classical technique once microphones became a thing, that sort of bridge between opera and modern musical theater. A lot of the singers that you're going to see cast in these roles were trained in classical music first. The absolute blueprint for this is, of course, Julie Andrews, and I will not hear one single word against my mother, okay?
You won't hear nothing bad from me against her.
Listen for yourself.
The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears.
Okay, now we have opera buffa. That literally means funny opera in Italian. And yeah, it's exactly that. It's mostly late Baroque into classical era opera. It's built around comedy. So you've got like exaggerated characters, very fast-paced dialogue, kind of like this video that's been set to music, very simple, catchy melodies that people could walk out of the theater singing, and bless, happy endings. They also sort of birthed this amazing stock character, which is the basso buffo. It's literally such a common role in these operas that basses can specialize in doing these characters. Big names in this genre are going to include The Marriage of Figaro, The Elixir of Love, and Rossini's Cinderella. And for this one, we're going to watch one of those very famous comic basses, Enzo Dara, being iconic in Rossini's Barber of Seville for as long as this video's format will allow me to.
Un dottor della mia corte non si lascia più no, un dottor della mia sorte non si lascia più
Of course, where we have funny opera, then we also have to have serious opera. This is your opera seria. Opera seria is where all of the opera stereotypes come from. Gods, kings, betrayal, noble suffering, and yes, people taking way too long to die while singing about it. I know, it's a thing. Like opera buffa, this was dominant in the 1700s. It has its own more formal rules that make it distinct, but the main thing to know as an audience member is the emotional tone. If you think that you're going to see a light Mozart comedy and you're going to have a great night out, ha ha ha, isn't it so funny? And then you accidentally buy tickets to an opera seria, you're gonna have an emotionally aggressive evening. Sure are. Same composers show up here. We've got Mozart, Rossini, Donizetti, but for a classic example, we're actually gonna go a little bit earlier. This is Handel's Giulio Cesare, sung by Danielle Denise, who is so perfectly cast as Cleopatra that it almost feels unfair. Okay, moving on. Remember, like ages ago, way back at the beginning of this video, we talked about oratorio when we were talking about cantatas. Cool, here we are. Oratorio is basically an opera, just no staging. You're gonna have a plot, you're gonna have characters, soloists, a chorus. You might even have fully sung dialogue, just like we have in operas, but there aren't gonna be any sets or costumes or lighting or acting, really. It's just gonna be the music. And because of that, oratorios are usually performed in churches or concert halls rather than opera houses. People tend to associate them with religion, and fair enough, a lot of them are very religious, but there are some secular oratorios too. If you're the kind of person who closes your eyes at the opera anyways and just doesn't pay attention to anything happening on the stage, you're just here for the music, oratorios are for you, babe. You're gonna recognize a lot of these. We've got Handel's Messiah, Hallelujah, the Bach Christmas Oratorio, Mendelssohn's Elijah, Stravinsky's Oedipus Rex. But for sheer sonic drama, and just because it's so f***ing cool, you gotta do Verdi's Requiem. Buckle up.
Go!
we have popra. Popra, the vocal version of classical crossover, is
Popra.
very simple to
That's the first time I've ever heard that term. Popra?
define. It is either one, opera sung in a non-operatic way, or two, non-opera music sung in an operatic way. That's it. It's not about popularity or who's the best singer or who could have had a legitimate career. Like, no, none of that. I love this genre. I feel like this genre gets a lot of flack, but it's a huge reason that people discover opera in the first place. I feel like everyone knows who Andrea Bocelli is. I discovered opera through Charlotte Church when I was 11 years old. Katherine Jenkins was a huge influence for a lot of people. And of course, for an entire generation, the face of classical vocal music was Josh Groban. Here's Josh Groban
Yeah, where the Grobanites at?
and Celine Dion singing an absolute opera classic, and the thing that really turned me on to opera when I was a wee child, The Prayer.
That'll never get
We made
old.
it. We're here. The
Prayer,
final
I don't
one.
care how many times we hear it, who's singing it. It's just one of those songs that sticks with you.
Verismo opera. Verismo means realism. So these are the operas that are about real people with real problems. We're not talking about kings and queens and nobles. No, we're talking about poverty and relationships and illness and jealousy and heartbreak. You know, like normal stuff. From that list, you've probably noticed that the majority of them are probably going to be pretty sad, pretty tragic. And that's true. Bring tissues. Generally, they're going to be late romantic operas. So we've got these very sweeping melodies, these huge orchestras and emotions, and these very long legato lines and high notes and these harmonies that just like you in the chest. There are a few other composers who are known for Verismo opera, but like unless you're planning to get a master's degree in opera, don't worry, I did that for you. The name's going to be Puccini. So to finish off our rapid fire list with the best thing that has ever crossed this planet, here is La Bohème. Okay, so what's the verdict? Do you still hate classical singing, or did you just hate opera? And maybe now you don't. Either way, congratulations on completing
never
your
hated
initiation
opera.
into the Baroque agenda. Membership is free. Side effects include crying in Italian and buying opera tickets with your rent money. Okay, I'll see you next time.
Hey, 100% get over and showcase all the love in the world. The link's inside of the description. A huge amount of knowledge in such a little bit of time. Obviously, if you haven't been watching any kind of classical music, classical singing, opera, take a step into that world. That's what I'm going to say. There's so many people out there that just won't listen to something because, oh, it's not in my native language. Not everything has to be. Not everything's meant to be translated to English. Things are meant to be sung in the way that they were meant to be sung. The emotion will find you through the music, through the notes. Even if you don't know the words, the music will find you. And sometimes it'll haunt you, but sometimes it'll make your day better. I get excited when I see the new classical music requests come up on our list. I really, truly do, because I know that it's gonna be a great way to start the day, one way or another. Either we're gonna have some sort of emotion flowing. There's going to be tears or laughter, one of the two, smiles or sadness. Get Over Show Scores Unstitched, all the love in the world. The link's inside of the description. I appreciate the knowledge that's been bestowed upon me. I will not refer to everything as an opera anymore, because obviously there is a whole host of different genres within the similar same categories. Hit the like button if you liked it, the dislike button, but I won't believe you. Shout out again to Brian for the request. Tell the next one, am I the Combustible? You guys be happy, healthy, safe. I love you to the moon and back. Peace.